Hello everyone and welcome to the WFCU Center, the host venue of tonight's NBL Canada clash between the Windsor Express and the Halifax Rainmen. My name is Brett Hedges alongside Mitch Kobe K. We'll be providing the play-by-play and color commentary tonight on the live stream of Game 1 of the NBL Canada Finals for 2015. And Mitch, these two teams have taken a different route to get here. Windsor coming off a 7-game series win over Brampton, just finishing the other day, while Halifax has had almost 2 weeks of rest.
Well, the Windsor Express certainly didn't have an easy road. Had to get out of here in Game 7 and did so in fine fashion. Coach Bill Jones put together a game plan which sees the Express come out and get it roaring out of the gate with I think 70-plus points by the end of the second quarter, and were able to execute and close down the stretch. The Halifax Rainmen decisively won their series, only losing one of those games, and have been on the rest since. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out. Will there be any rust to start this series, which kicks off tonight?
Absolutely. Now, these two teams met during the regular season twice, and with the Windsor Express taking one and Halifax, coming out with the other. The Clash of the Coliseum 2, which we had the pleasure of calling, showed a season low, and actually an NBL record low points against for the Windsor Express, with 68 points against for Halifax. But when they went out to Halifax later in the month, I believe it was February 8th, they got trounced 128-99. And Halifax has been on a 17-2 run since that loss to Windsor at the Clash of the Coliseum. So Windsor's definitely going to need to slow down Halifax. Don't you agree?
I would, and big in part to Kevin Young, who has dominated throughout this season. He was a guy that scored 17 points, 8 rebounds, led the NBL in player efficiency, shot 58% from the field, and then turned it up in the playoffs. He's now a guy that's 22 points, 11 rebounds. He's on a tear, Defensive Player of the Year. It's going to be interesting to see how the Express plan to stop Kevin Young.
Absolutely. Now, Windsor has their own Player of the Year, but this one is the league MVP, that being Quinnell Brown. What do the Halifax Rainmen need to do to stop QB?
Well, defense is the key to Quinnell Brown, and they're going to have to find somebody to match up size and strength. Quinnell Brown is one of those guys that brings both to the table. He's tough to defend, and the matchup with Kevin Young looks to be a fantastic one.
Absolutely. Now, this year's Coach of the Year, Pep Claros of Halifax Rainmen, going against Bill Jones, who last year won the league Coach of the Year award. Talk about a little bit of the chess game that's going to happen over this 7-game series.
Well, you've got arguably the two best coaches in the league. No surprise, both teams in the final. You have the winner of the Central, the winner of the Atlantic. It's going to come down to whichever coach comes up with the best game plan, and then in turn can get his players to execute. So that matchup in itself is another one to look at as being interesting and something for the league to remember in this finals, which is going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Now for the NBL Finals, the game format is going to be 2-3-2. So after this game, we'll have Game 2 on Friday, 17th at the WFCU Center. Then they're going to go on a plane, go all the way to Halifax for a Sunday game at 1 p.m. Eastern. So that'll be noon here. That'll be 2 p.m. Whatever. It'll be Sunday, but then it'll go Tuesday, Thursday, and then come back for 6 and 7 if necessary. Now, those 3 games in Halifax could be a big difference in this series.
It's a long trip for the Express on the road, and that's why it's important that they close tonight. If you're the Windsor Express, you don't want to drop Game 1 at home. So this is very, very important that the Express come out of here with a W. And then on the other hand, if you're the Halifax Rainmen and you can sneak out of the WFCU Center 1-0, you're in good shape by the time you get to that 3-game swing.
Absolutely. Now, there's been a great amount of supporting cast from each team during the regular season and the playoffs. Namely for the Windsor Express, Tony Bennett, Ryan Anderson, Chris Commons. How is the depth of the Windsor Express going to help them win this series?
Well, when you're talking about depth, you got to think about Jamarcus Ellis and Kirk Williams Jr., how have proved to be fantastic off of the bench. Those guys were instrumental in both series that the Express had, and certainly over the course of the rest of the regular season. And then a guy you talk about all the time, Tim Parham. He came out last game, put in some quality minutes, and with McMorrow being 7'2", 275 pounds, Parham may find himself with a greater role.
Absolutely. Now, Halifax has a great guard combo with Ando, Klingscales, and Watson. How do the Express defend that?
Well, both of Crookshanks and Ando are 10 points per game respectively, and Watson can shoot the lights out from the three-point line. So it's going to have to be no space to shoot, and they're going to have to stay on point with the defensive piece and the backcourt, which can take over at any point if you're the Halifax Rainmen.
We spoke about it earlier, the long rest for the Halifax Rainmen versus the little to no rest for Windsor Express after their 7-game series. Which team do you think is going to be a little bit more fresh or a little bit more ready to get after it in game 1?
That's something only time will tell. If you're the Halifax Rainmen, you're not going to be rusty for too long.
Yeah.
The Windsor Express, on the other hand, are they tired? Have they been fatigued? Quinnell Brown played a ton of minutes this year, so it'll be interesting to see how much gas is left in the tank for the Windsor Express.
To get the Express train rolling, they're going to need some gas for sure. And the 7-game series is definitely going to test their will and their merit. I can't wait for these two coaches to get after it, and I can't wait for these teams to get after it here at Game 1 at the WFCU Center. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on Knockstrom.tv and, of course, on the NBL Canada website for our pre-game show. We've got some nice fans coming in here tonight. Hopefully it'll be a great time. Tell me your thoughts about the fan support from Windsor in this playoff run.
Well, if you're a Windsor fan, you've got a good city to enjoy basketball in. The fan base has grown tremendously from the time Windsor's been here. We've enjoyed great attendance. We've enjoyed great sponsorship and great support. But that goes for the NBL. The league itself has grown tremendously over the years it's been in Canada, and we have a brand of basketball, a brand of professional basketball to call our own.
Absolutely. Now, these two teams coming from different perspectives in terms of them getting to the playoffs. The Halifax Rainmen were here in year 1 of the NBL Finals, took the London Lightning to Game 5, but dropped that. It's been a 2-year rebuild for them to get back to this point where Windsor's looking to repeat. It should be a very interesting matchup, to say the least, Mitch.
Yes, the Halifax Rainmen had a taste of what it was like to be in the finals, falling to the London Lightning, and the Windsor Express last year were able to get it done. So Windsor wants to repeat and come back as the 2-time champs for the NBL, where the Rainmen want to prove that they're the real deal, and we know that they are. They won their last 10 straight regular season games, and their playoff record so far 7-2. So they are firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, needless to say, they're firing on all cylinders. If you were to pick one person that you believe on each side is going to make a big difference in tonight's game, who do you think and why?
I'm going to go with Tony Bennett for the Windsor Express. He's averaged over 8 assists per game, and he's come up real big from the three-point line. His leadership, energy, and defensive play have been the difference for the Windsor Express. He had big shoes to fill coming in for Darren Duncan this year, and he has accomplished and done exactly what he set out to do. And then if you're the Halifax Rainmen, it's Young. The defensive presence that he brings, the size inside, the ability to rebound and score. He averages over 2 steals a game. He stays super efficient, and he's a leader on the court. He's my guy for the Halifax Rainmen.
Now, we always like to talk about our shooters when we were up in the WFCU media booth, and the ability to stretch the floor is always so important in this league. I've got to think that Ryan Anderson is going to play a huge role for the Windsor Express in this league, in this series as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Since coming over this year, Ryan Anderson has delivered for the Windsor Express. He's also had almost 8 rebounds per game in the playoffs. He's scoring, he's getting back on defense, and he's bringing that energy. He was a key piece for Windsor to bring in another guy with the roster shifts from last year. He's been fantastic all playoff long. I don't expect that to change.
Absolutely. Now, Halifax has their own rain man, so to speak, from three-point land, Joey Haywood. We didn't get a chance to see him very much this year, but we know that he can shoot the 3-ball, as do many of these Halifax Rainmen. How big is the 3-ball going to be for Halifax, do you think?
Well, it's big for any team. We've seen the Windsor Express score 14 3-pointers, I believe, in the first half. The last game that we played, here. So it's hard to say, but Windsor's going to have to get out and defend that perimeter at all costs.
Absolutely. Now, we were talking about the inside game prior to the pregame show and how important it's going to be for the interior presence of Windsor to handle Liam McMorrow, the 7'2", 275-pound guy. It's probably going to take more than 2 or 3 guys to handle him in this series.
It is, because when you're talking about guys getting into foul trouble, that becomes a problem. That's happened for DeAndre. That's no secret. They're going to have to implement a way to rotate inside and guard McMorrow, who is an absolute giant at 7 foot 2 inches tall.
Now, the Halifax Rainmen taking care of the Island Storm in 5 games in the Atlantic Division. Windsor obviously having to play a 7-game series with Brampton. How much is that series versus Brampton, being down 3-1, coming back again from a big deficit, how much do you think that goes down, does that say about the determination and will of this basketball team?
Well, perseverance has been the story of the Windsor Express ever since last season. And in that series in particular, it was a rocky start, but it was a rocky finish. The Express sort of did the impossible with their backs against the wall. They were able to come out and beat the Brampton A's, who showed up to win. Windsor showed true heart and resiliency, got the job done. They did it at the WFCU Center, and they proved to fans and themselves that they can absolutely repeat this season.
Absolutely, and we're hoping you're right. I look forward to being in the broadcast booth with you in a few short moments. We're a few minutes away from tip-off here at the WFCU Center. Thank you for joining us for our pregame show, courtesy of Knockstrom.tv. For Brett Hedges and Mitch Kobe K, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you prior to tip-off for our pregame announcements. Thank you for joining us, everyone.